Hello, beautiful beings, and welcome to the podcast episode of today. So this is the Headnoise episode. We are listening to your voice messages and we are answering them. I love these episodes, as you guys know. We've had a huge, we always get a lot of questions, whether it's voice messages, whether it's emails, but I feel like we've had a big surge recently, which is, I think, just a massive indicator of people being like, I love these fucking episodes. I'm really enjoying these questions and hearing things from different perspectives from different people and how they're experiencing things. And I also love these questions because I think that most people can apply someone's suffering or, redirection in life or whatever it is that they're going through to their life, even if it's not the same situation. So many ways of dealing with particular situations can be applied across the board, whether it's indecisiveness with relationships, you can apply that to work, to friendships, to all kinds of things, okay? So let's just dive straight in. I have 4 that I would like to get through this episode. So let's begin. This one's called Breaking Out of Core Coding.
Hey, Alexis. I wanted to start by saying thank you so much for everything you do. I think I listen to you every single week and I always learn something. You definitely fill my cup. Um, I wanted to talk to you today about what I would call my dual operating systems. I grew up in a really religious background. I had an amazing childhood, but it was just very heavily Bible coded. Um, then I moved to a different country. I started to learn different ways of thinking. And I would say now I've kind of separated myself from those heavily religious views, um, and made my own sort of opinions of the world. However, I still get the religious guilt. So if I'm doing something that I feel is maybe not in line with what I learned when I was younger, even though I know it's something I want for myself, I still get the squirmy feeling. And I just wanted to see if you had any advice on how to sort of break out of that core coding and move forward with that guilt. Thank you. I really appreciate any advice.
Such a fucking good question. That's such a good question. I was actually recently, and by recently, probably 2 years ago, talking to a good friend of mine who was really struggling with something quite similar in the sense that he's gay and he came out as an adult and he was raised religiously in a religious family, but he himself is not religious. However, he says that it's getting better and better, but he carries a lot of this, internalized homophobia and guilt because of the way he was raised and the struggles that he had kind of breaking out of that. So I think that what you're going through would apply to a lot of people, and not just with religion, but also with beliefs that your parents or your community or your country or whatever it is, wherever you were raised, might hold, where then you start to differ in those beliefs. So this is a really, really good question, because those beliefs that you were raised with, that are, ingrained in you, whether you align with them or not, they form part of this kind of internal working model, which we've spoken about. And that's kind of your beliefs about the world. And they really heavily influence how we act, how we interact with the world, how we perceive the world, and our beliefs about what we're capable of having or what we're capable of deserving, okay? So that internal working model is heavily influenced, obviously, by your parents or the people that raise you. And it's really hard to snap out of it unless you are consciously trying to do so. So the answer, in a nutshell, and I'll go into it in a second, is to consciously be breaking out of that pattern. So you already know that, which is great. The first step is awareness. That's number 1, which you have. So every time you feel I feel like I'm going against this, I'm going against that, you almost need to, you don't almost, you need to pause and you need to identify, number 1, what exactly am I going against? What is the exact belief I'm going against? Name it, okay? So then you say, okay, with the way that I was raised, it goes against the religion to do something, because if you do something according to the religion, it would mean this, and then the consequences would be this. Okay, so now you've really kind of cut it down to a very specific thing. The more specific you can get with your thoughts, the easier it is to tame them, okay? If we go broad, and what I mean by broad is if you feel this sense of guilt, being like, oh, I just feel like I'm kind of torn between these two things, but you don't get specific, then that guilt is likely going to brush over a lot of your behaviors, a lot of how you lead your life. You're going to think that the way you lead your life is wrong or, not in alignment with how other people would see it. And then you're less likely to feel comfortable living your life the way you want to live it, okay? So get really specific, name it, get really clear. The more details around it, the better, so you can really whittle it down. Then you have to identify why it is that these competing new beliefs that you have are valid, okay? And a really good way of looking at this is don't look at things as there being black or white, right or wrong. If we think that life has to be black and white, then we get we see a lot of competition in our life. When there's a lot of room for grey, you have to realize that most people go through life without actually having the answers for a lot of things. So due to that, we lean to certain ways of living our life to guide us, whether that be how you're choosing to live your life, how your parents chose to live their life, if someone chooses a religion, if someone chooses, whatever it is, okay? We look for guidance in a way that helps us feel like this is how I can align with how I want to live my life, so I feel like I'm doing the right thing. Otherwise, I'm going to be too scattered. Otherwise, I'm going to feel like I have no direction or whatever it is. And a lot of people find that really helpful in religion. Is it right? Is it wrong? We're not here to decide that, okay? We're not here to say, but how you live your life is wrong because, or where's the proof that this, or that's not your business. That's not your job to do that. I mean, you can if you want, but it's not your responsibility. So one thing that's really calming is to remind yourself that the way that you were raised is not the right or the wrong way. It's the way that works for the people that raised you, for the people in that religion. It works for them. So good on them to continue carrying out that way of life. Having said that, it doesn't work for you, okay? That's the beauty of individuality and of autonomy. It doesn't have to work for everyone. Because right now you might be feeling guilty that you're not aligning with those beliefs, but I bet you that you don't look at someone else who also is not religious and doesn't align, and you judge them. You're only judging yourself. You're only judging yourself because you've got these ingrained beliefs. But you'll look at someone who's living the exact same life that you want to be living, under the rule book that you want to live under, and you're probably thinking, I love how they're living their life. I love how they're doing that. Good on them. This is so great. You're not like, oh, you're sinning, oh, you're doing the, This is internalized because you've decided that for you, it is wrong, but it's not. So the more you can remind yourself, life is not black and white. There is no rule book that aligns with everyone, just like there is no rule book that aligns for every company that you work for or every relationship that you're in. You have to tailor it for what works for you, for what is healthiest for you. So when you look at that and when you feel that pang of guilt that you're torn between the two, number one, what is this exact feeling that I'm feeling? And number two, you say to yourself, why do I think that this is wrong when in reality it's just I'm using a different rule book now. I've switched codes. You literally used breaking out of core coding. It's exactly what you're doing. I've switched codes. So while that might be wrong if I were to follow that rule book, it's not wrong because I'm following a different rule book now, okay? What works for these people, I love that for them. If it's comforting, if it gives them a sense of security, if it gives them a sense of connection, that's really good. But it didn't do that for me. So therefore, how could that be the right thing for me? It's impossible, all right? So, and the beauty about this is that it takes away judgment from both sides. You're not there trying to criticize and pick apart that life. I mean, you can. I'm sure there's many things that you can criticize from anyone's version of living their life. There's good and bad, right? But I think it's good to not dwell on that because then you start trying to justify why you're not living that life and why you are. We need to kind of just be a bit more relaxed about the whole thing and be a bit more, fluid about the whole thing and be like, all right, that works for them, doesn't work for me. They're entitled to that life as I am with mine. As long as, for me, the number one thing, which I think goes without saying, as long as I'm not hurting anyone in the process, then I'm entitled to be living my life by my rule books. the way I want to be doing it. Okay. Hopefully that helped. And it also helps you feel less disconnected. You can still connect with these people. You can still feel like you don't have to think, well, if I'm going to not believe the same thing that they're going to believe, I have to sever my life. I have to sever those ties. I have to sever. It doesn't have to be that way because we're not thinking in black and white anymore. Okay. So we can accept the best of all worlds, and and the beauty of it is you can look back and be like, there were things about that life that actually really were nice, and I can probably take those lessons and bring them into my life now. And then there were things that for me that just absolutely didn't work. So therefore I'm not going to take those things. So that way you can feel like, I value what I did learn, and I just absolutely do not value these other things that didn't serve me at all. So thank you. Fucking peace be with you. Peace and blessings. Okay. Cool. Thank you so much for that question. Next one. It's how to not fuck up a good thing. How good are these? These titles. Obsessed.
Hi, Alexis. Thank you so much for your podcast. I've been listening for the last 2 years, and it has given me a lot of mental clarity around things that would have super messed me up in the past. So, thank you for that. And I'm calling in from the US. I really liked your episode on how to fuck up a good thing by looking for something else because I feel like I go through that conundrum daily. I'm 25. I've been working in the corporate world for 3.5 years, and I have a work from home job. I can travel a bunch on my own because of my time off. I get paid a good amount. I live in a cool city, and I am building a good community here. But in the back of my mind, I always am like, you know, go off for a year and try something new. And I don't know if that voice will ever go away, but I've studied abroad before. I've taken risks, and I always am missing home and what I left. So I'm not sure if this voice is super valid and if I should honor it and go on an adventure for a year and try and see what I'm made of in this world, or if I need to continue to learn to love where I'm at in life and continue to foster that here. Thanks, Alexis.
Okay, this is such a good question, and I'm glad that you specifically raised that episode because I actually had quite a few questions about that episode because people were being like, I'm a little bit conflicted with this episode because you're all about preaching, take a leap of faith, go and do that thing, action that thing, you regret the things you don't do, and then you come up with this episode that's how to fuck up a good thing by chasing something that doesn't exist. So very thrilled that you brought this up because I do want to clarify the difference between the two, okay? One of the things, number one, is we need to get better at listening to ourselves. When something genuinely is calling us and it's a genuine interest and it's a passion that we're interested in, no matter what, I think you should always be asking yourself, is it possible for me to go for this thing? Like a year abroad, like studying, like the travel, like taking that job, like taking that risk. Of course, that is always going to be my number one thing that I recommend for people. Have the experience. If you have the burning desire, you got to listen to what you want, have the experience. On the flip side of that, we also are very good at, I don't know if we're very good at it. We can become very good at really listening to ourselves when something isn't right for us. For example, the sunk cost fallacy, when we're sticking something out for longer than we need to because we don't want to admit defeat, or we got a degree and we hate it, but we don't want to admit that we've now just wasted 3 years studying something to be in a career that we hate and now we've got to start from scratch again, that kind of thing. But really understanding when something is not the right fit, it's not making you happy, it doesn't align with who you are, you can see yourself being miserable for the foreseeable future and knowing when to walk away, okay? All of that, that's all good. When I talk about how to fuck up a good thing by chasing something that doesn't exist, that comes from severe complacency, okay? So what I mean by that is I'm going to use dating apps as the prime example, but then we can use other scenarios as well. So with a dating app, we have the luxury of choice, right? We have so many choices that then it becomes actually harder to commit to any choice. And the choice that you make especially in a dating app, sometimes could be the best choice for you. But because you know that there are so many other possibilities and there's so much potential out there, you're not willing to give it your all. Right? So then you start seeing this person, they could be a gem, a fucking gem, right? Green flags, they care, they're just good vibes. You could really build a life with this person. They could be the love of your life if you both gave it your all, and or they could just be a fucking fling that was nothing, you know? Because a lot of relationships come down to the effort that you put into them. Of course, you got to align on the initial things, but a lot of it also comes down to how much am I giving this? So then you're kind of dating this person. You're like, yeah, they're good. Yep, they're good. Like, yep. But you're not giving much of your energy and quality time and effort. And you've got this other eye being like, oh, I don't want to fully get off the dating apps. There's just so much attention that I'm getting. I'm kind of feeling, and then you get lazy because you're like, everything's coming my way. Why do I have to put in the effort when everything's coming my way? And then you end up ruining this thing that you have, right? And then you end up going into dating someone else. And then later on, you're like, wait a minute. I actually really did have the opportunity for a great relationship. That actually, in hindsight, that person did treat me really well. That person actually, I found them very hot. I found them there. And then you start being like, oh, fuck's sake, did I just throw that away for what? You know? So ultimately, in a nutshell, there's many nutshells in this episode, so we're cracking open a lot of fucking nuts, including our own heads. But in a nutshell, what it comes down to is, have I given this my all? And have I really been able to, like, without being superficial, but milk what I can get out of this thing, right? So when it comes to dating, if you're unsure about dating, in order to not fuck up that thing, my advice is get off the apps, pretend that this person is the love of your life. How would you behave if that person was the love of your life, right? Imagine that the job that you're in right now is the job of your dreams. Just for the next month or 2 months, how would you act if that was the job of your dreams? You would probably dress the part, like you put in more effort, right? You would tidy up your inbox and this and that, and you'd be fucking organized. You'd be loving it. You'd probably be putting in more effort when you speak to your superiors. You'd be like, I want to run this new project. I want to do this. I want to try. You're proactive. You're like, this is the job of my dreams. And then after a month, you will have your answer because you actually gave it your all. There's no chance of fucking up a good thing. If it was a good thing, that month or 2 months, depending on the time frame, it's very specific on what we're talking about, whether it's a relationship or a job or whatever. But that time frame that you established has given you a really good insight into determining, now I know I can walk away because I acted like this was the be all end all and I am not fulfilled, right? Or after that month or 2 months, you could be like, this is fucking unbelievable. I never knew that I could like my life so much. All it required was me acting as if it was my dream life, and then it became my dream life because I realized I actually did have everything that I needed and it was right in front of me. And instead of always looking at potentially other jobs or always like focusing on the negative and this and that, I actually had it right in front of me and I am living the dream, right? So I always want you to look at it like that. Have I given this my all? Have I really acted like this is the dream scenario for me? And if the answer is yes, if you gave that person a good 2 months acting like they're the love of your life and you're like, absolutely not, absolutely fucking not, then I can guarantee you will not only be able to walk away comfortably, but you will never look back and say, did I fuck up a bad thing? Because you'll be able to be like, remember those 2 months where I gave it my all and I didn't feel it, right? Now let's address your situation. Number one, you can acknowledge that everything in your life is really good. When it comes to, so I don't know how you're living your day-to-day life. Are you acting like this is the dream life that I'm living? Because I would recommend that for you as well. Like, how could I romanticize my life right now? How can I romanticize my job, my morning routine, the people I hang out with? How can we really turn this into like those lives that I see, that I'm inspired by? That could be mine. How? What could I do with the life I have right now, just for the next couple of months, and see how it impacts my happiness? But having said that, if it's a trip, a time frame thing, I would still recommend you go on the time frame thing. Like if we're talking, for example, I personally love my life in Australia. I don't ever really see myself living permanently anywhere else than where I live right now because of primarily the people that live in close proximity to me. I've got such a great network. I genuinely love the city that I live in. There's so much that I love, and I love my job. I love, 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 love. However, I also know that I really want to do multiple in my lifetime stints of like 3 to 6 months living in Spain. So that doesn't take away from the fact that I love my life. I don't think with you, if you're like, I really want to do this overseas thing, I think you should still do it because it's not taking away from the love you have for your life. It's kind of like a temporary experience that you're going to gain so much from. So I think you would be doing the right thing if you're like, okay, I've been strategic about this, I've saved, I'm not fucking up a career or anything like this, but I just want to do that trip again. I would still recommend you do it and use this mindset to actually enjoy yourself when you're there, so that way you're not missing home so much. Because like I said in that episode about how to fuck up a good thing, and I mentioned that with a lot of people, once they're already away, they start to think, oh, now I miss home. Why am I missing home when I dreamt of this trip for so long, when I dreamt of this thing? And then once you book that ticket and you're ready to come home, it's that final few weeks before that flight home that you actually really start enjoying it, because you're not umming and ahhing and whatever, you actually finally relax, you let go of the reins and you're really more present. And that's when people enjoy it. So I think that my advice to you is, yes, you want to still act like this is the city and the life of your dreams and see how that rolls out. Because you might be like, wow, obsessed, I actually don't want to go overseas. But there's a big chance that because you've just someone that enjoys to travel and wants to have these experiences, that you still want to go, okay? But pick a time frame, and when you're there, use that same tactic being there. Because for short-term things like 1 year, 6 months abroad, whatever, I think you should still act on those things because they are experiences that add to your life. You shouldn't have like, oh, just because I like this life, now every day has to be exactly the same. Now every year has to look exactly the same. Not at all. Life is very colorful, and you're going to have many seasons and many, many different experiences and many twists and turns. And what works for you this year is you're eventually going to get over it, okay? So you always have to be checking in. It's not saying, okay, well, now that I've decided that this is the life of my dreams, I can never change my mind. No. It's the life of my dreams for now. It's the career of my dreams for now. In 2 years' time, I'm going to learn things that I didn't know now that's going to make me potentially change my mind about what else I want in my future, all right? So it's ever evolving. It's always moving, and go on the trip is what I'm saying. But use that mentality of like once you're on the trip, so you're not missing home thinking, oh, I want to be home now. And then you got 1 foot in the door, 1 foot out of the door. It's like, what can I do when I'm here that makes me 100% here? It ultimately comes down to is when I'm doing the thing, I have to give it my all. Because if I'm 1 foot here, 1 foot there, I'm not enjoying anything. I'm not enjoying what I'm missing, and I'm not enjoying what I'm having. Okay. Hopefully that helped, but great. Great question. Next one, passion project versus overcommitting.
Okay, the title of this voicemail is Passion Project versus Serial Overcommitter. Hey, Alexis, thank you so much for your podcast. As everyone says, it is amazing. It has literally changed my life. You are the best. I have a question about passion projects and whether I'm following the right path for me or if I'm just putting way too much on my plate. So, for context, I run my own business as a freelance copywriter, which is my day to day. I've just recently gone full time into that over the past year, which has kept me really busy. On the side, I'm also writing a children's novel, which is my big creative dream, like my big lifelong, would give anything to do this kind of goal. I've been struggling to stick to a good writing schedule over the past year while I've been building my full time business. Um, at the same time, alongside all of that, I love group fitness classes at my gym, and I've actually been approached by the gym to do instructor training for this particular class. It scares me, but in a good way. I feel at my best when I'm doing these classes. It's not career related, it's purely a hobby, which I don't really have hobbies outside of this. It's a great community, it's really fun. I would love to give it a go. It's a big time commitment though, and I guess I'm worried that if I'm already struggling to fit in writing my book, which is my big goal, then putting group fitness instructor training on top of that and on top of my business is just going to stress me out and be just way too much. So, any tips on how to know whether it's all too much, or if something that really does feel right and exciting is the way to go, regardless of how much time I have on my plate. Thank you so much.
That's a great question. Love this question. Okay, so my advice would be you've got to look at milestone goals versus lifestyle goals. I actually think that you should go ahead and do this instructor fitness training because, and the reason I say this is because the training phase is what's going to overload your plate. It's what's going to be a big time commitment. It's everything you just said. That's the training phase. But once that training course is done, you are now qualified and you are then teaching. And teaching classes does not eat up that much of your time. I know this because I was a personal trainer, group fitness instructor, and reformer instructor for over 10 years. So I know for a fact that the training is time consuming, and then obviously however many classes you put on your plate is going to determine how busy you are. You can teach 2 classes a week on the weekend as like this labor of love, or you can teach a full schedule of 25 plus classes, okay? That's completely up to you. But I'm getting the vibe that you're not wanting to do this to become a full-time group fitness instructor. I think that your aim is to be able to teach some classes on the side because it fills you with joy. You love the idea of doing it. Babe, fucking feels. That's one of the things that I miss the most is teaching group classes because I fucking loved it so much. There are times that I've got friends that own a Pilates studio, and every once in a blue moon I'll go and teach a guest class at their studio because it just fills me with so much joy, and I get to see like a lot of my old like clients that used to come to my classes back in the day. So my advice to you is if you're like this, it's a fire that I can't put out, I love doing it, then what I would do is I would actually put the children's book temporarily, I would bring it down a notch in how much time and effort I'm going to put into the children's book. Because, and the reason I say this is you can have it all, but it's just about timing of when those things come to fruition. So when I was approached to write my first book, Be Bold, I was on the cusp of about to finish my degree that year. I had my sights set on finishing my master's. Everything was planned. I was visualizing it. It was on my vision board. It was all fucking ready to go. And I knew that I had to do 4 subjects in the final semester. It was all fucking happening. It was a lot, but I was pumped and I had mentally set myself up for it. I was already doing the subjects. The semester had just started, the second semester of that year, and then I get approached to write this book. And I was also very excited to finish uni for many things because I thought if I can finish uni now, it's going to free up a lot of things. I can then go full-time with the podcast because I'll be able to be doing 2 episodes a week. And blah, blah, blah. There was a lot of things that were hinging on me finishing this degree in this time frame. But then an opportunity comes up. And sometimes opportunities are too good to pass up and you think, you know what, maybe I can reshuffle. Maybe I can push a timeline out a little bit in order to accommodate something that would really mean something to me and be really fulfilling. It's all well and good to have a 1-year plan, a 5-year plan, but you also need a little bit of flexibility because life is not completely in your control. And that comes with good things too, because I talk about it a lot with bad things, but it comes with really good things as well that happen in your life that we have to be open to allowing in and just reshuffling a few things to make it happen. So of course what I did was say yes to the book, obviously, because I had another thing on my vision board was eventually write a book. But then I thought, now this pushes everything else out. But what an opportunity, what a gift. This is amazing. So I dropped 2. I was also fortunate that when this offer came through to me, it was before the census date where you can drop the subjects without a penalty. So I dropped 2 out of the subjects. It meant that I wasn't going to graduate for another year, or at least another semester, and then the graduation wouldn't be another semester after that, whatever it was. But it really pushed the time frame out. And I was imagining myself like coming into the end of the year, Sydney summer, not having that feeling of completing a huge task that you set out. That wasn't going to happen. And I was okay with that because I'm like, pick your poison, because the alternative would be saying no to the book, or worse, saying yes to the book, doing all the subjects and probably failing one of the subjects, or delivering a really shitty book and then never being approached to write a book ever again. So what's it going to be? So what I think you should do is, if you think that this is a timely thing, that this is the right time for you to do this fitness course, that it's going to be really, they want you to do it now, you're working with those people now, you don't want to wait fucking 3 years in order to do it, this is probably the right time. So I would do the course. It's not going to take you an eternity. Do the course. And with the children's book, I would still have it there, but maybe have something like maybe 3 times a week you sit down just for 30 minutes, 3 times a week. That's it. That's an hour and a half in a week. You can do it, right? An hour and a half in a week. 3 30-minute blocks. Sit down and just do a brainstorm. Just words on paper, words on paper, words on paper. You'll be amazed at how much you get done because you don't have pressure. Don't have I've got to finish this book by this date. That date is gone. Until you start doing your fitness training, don't have an end date for the children's book. Just say, I want to contribute to that book 30 minutes, 3 times a week, whatever, right? You're going to still be able to work on the children's book, but at a much more comfortable pace. You're going to be able to do this fitness instructing course. You're going to be able to start teaching, and you can pick and choose the classes that you want to teach. You can just do a handful, because obviously you have a full-time job, so you're not going to be doing this full-time. You're going to love your life. You're going to have this writing, but you're going to have that connection with people in a class. This is what I would do. The children's book goes down a notch temporarily. You still give it love, but you're not giving yourself pressure because you've removed a time frame of when it has to be done. You're going to do this course. That time frame and the pressure of that course is temporary, because the course is not going to last for their whole life. It's temporary. Once the course is done, then you pick some classes that you want to start teaching, and then you bring that children's book back up to the forefront, okay? You can have it all. You just have to shuffle the timing around a little bit with things in your life, okay? Love that. All right, final question.
Hey, Alexis. Love the pod. Thank you so much for all you have done. You've truly helped evolve my life into daily. I am a better person. So thank you so much for that. With that being said, all of the tools that you have given me, I've read both your books. I listen to your pod all the time, and I do stuff for my future self all the time. I contradict my negative self-talk. I perform exercises. I step outside. I do the deep breathing. I do all this stuff to help regulate my nervous system, and it's really gotten me to an amazing place. The last few months have been very, very stressful, and I haven't had much time for self-care, but I've been fitting it in where I can. This last week, granted, PMS is involved in this, but I have just wanted to throw a tantrum like a toddler. Life has been overwhelming. I have all these amazing tools that I can implement in my life, and I'm like, I just don't want to. And I don't get this way very often, but I'm here right now. And I'm curious what is happening in the brain when you have all these tools, but you're just like, and you kind of act like a toddler, even though I'm a 31-year-old woman that is capable of regulating my emotions.
That's such a good question, because I feel like a lot of us go through patches like that. So what's happening is you're overwhelmed. It's like close to maybe not a full burnout, but it's kind of that idea of you've got too much going on your plate. And because for you, this self-care, self-love, self-development journey has been a conscious one. And what I mean by that is you've had to actually consciously put in the work to do this. For you, the journey wasn't, I'm born this way, I've got all these things, I've been taught to think this way and feel this way, and now, I feel amazing all the time. Everyone starts on a different playing field, okay? So for you, you've had to consciously bring these thoughts into practice. So while it's good for you, it's not yet a subconscious process. So you can still identify where you benefit from these behaviors and actions, but it's still effort, okay? Which is fine. You will get there. Repetition is key. But that, on top of the fact that you mentioned you had a really stressful time recently, so you've now added a stressor on top of that, or life I should say, has added a stressor on top of that. So now we're battling between external stresses that are happening that you have to deal with, plus the fact that you now have to put in all this conscious effort into this self-love, self-development, feeling good. So now you're overwhelmed because you're like, this is just too much. I'm exerting myself too much. And right now, I just feel like, why can't I just be? Why can't I just fucking relax and chill? It's too much on my plate. And it is, right? So I think, I'm a huge advocate for having like nothing days, okay? I think it's really important to have moments of reset, especially when you're going through like overwhelm like this, or burnout even, that allows you to reset on everything, right? For today, I'm not going to actively force myself to meditate if I don't feel like meditating. I don't have to do all these things. I'm just going to rest. I'm also not going to do detrimental behaviors. Like I'm not going to then rest and then doom scroll all day long. I can doom scroll for 30 minutes or whatever, but like I need to just be a bit strategic. But I need a very, 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 very low stimulation day or low stimulation afternoon or morning or whatever it is if you can't dedicate a full day to that. Sometimes just, zooming out, deep rest is kind of what we need to recalibrate. Okay. Sometimes we overwhelm ourselves by doing too much of this self-help all the time. A lot of people ask me, like, what self-help podcast do you listen to? Not many, because my job is in self-help. Of course I read self-development books. Of course I do all of that. But if I was to spend my whole life, work and on the side, like leisure time, all on self-development, I'd lose my fucking mind because then you're too analytical. It's too much. You've got to allow time to also just be. How often are you just being where you're not dealing with external stresses and when you're not thinking, I have to develop myself, I'm developing myself. When is the time for you to just fucking chill? So if you can look at that and being like, I am doing the work, but I'm also not giving myself time to let it sink and just be, then that's what you need to be doing. We need to create more pockets of just nothingness and chilling, okay? Be intentional with that nothingness so you don't feel like you've wasted time. It's different to coming home. It's like, yeah, but I did come home yesterday and I sat on the couch and I festered on the couch and I doom scrolled and I festered and I felt like shit. But that wasn't intentional. It's not like you're saying from 4 p.m. onwards, I'm going to schedule out an afternoon of not fucking much and I'm going to be intentional about it. I'm going to maybe like pick up some food or make something really easy, put on my favorite movie. Just little things like that. You'll be amazed at how much just being starts to feel good because you've done the groundwork. You're doing the groundwork. Now you've got to reap the rewards because if you never get to actually sit and chill and be, how are you ever going to reap the rewards of all the hard work you've done on this self-development and self-care and self-love? Have a scheduled pajama day, like my sister says. Have those moments where you are just regrouping, and then you're able to tackle the external stresses in your life a lot better. And then you're able to revisit your self-development work with a much fresher mind and a much more engaged approach as well. So hopefully that helps because I think so many people feel you, and it's going on a self-development journey requires a lot of effort, especially in the first few months or year. So yeah, amazing. But good work, and yeah, just keep it up. Even if you need to like taper down a little bit with a few exercises and do more of some other things, you will fucking get there. Thank you so much to everyone that sent in the voice messages. I love them, and I will fucking speak to you here on this couch next week. That is all. And as always, remember, be kind to yourself, be kind to your brain. Don't take shit from anyone, and especially don't take shit from yourself.